Good evening, everybody. Welcome warmly to Bristol Pro Bono Group's inaugural event to celebrate Pro Bono in Bristol during Pro Bono Week 2020. We've got an excellent turnout online, so we're quite keen to get going because we've got a lot to share with you this evening. And we've got some fantastic participants from across Bristol in a number of different sectors. Just to introduce myself, my name is Victoria Channing, for those who don't know me. I work full-time as Pro Bono Manager at Simmons Simmons, which is an international law firm. And I am also acting as Chair of the Bristol Pro Bono Group. For those who are not familiar with our group, we were formed approximately 18 months ago. And our main mission is to promote pro bono in Bristol and the Southwest, and to share best practice amongst those lawyers and students who are participating in pro bono projects. And we also, as part of that, work with local entities to identify areas of unmet legal need. So our group is made up of representatives from law firms, from barristers' chambers, universities and other providers of pro bono services, such as the Bristol Law Centre, who are here today with us. We also work collaboratively with the Bristol Community Engagement Group and also the Bristol Law Society. And I'd like to thank them for hosting us today on Zoom. I'm very conscious that we've got a broad range of attendees today, and some of whom may not necessarily be that familiar with the concept of pro bono. So here we're using the term to refer to the provision of free legal advice to individuals and not-for-profit entities who otherwise would not be able to afford that advice. So it's an old school Latin term, but widely used across the legal sector to denote that giving of free legal advice. So I'd like to start with something I'm very proud of, is a little animation that I managed to get somebody to put together for us to really launch our group. We've now got an online presence, we've got social media, so please do follow us. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. You'll probably be seeing that again at the end, just because I'm really, really pleased with it. But without further ado, what we'll do is we're going to progress. This evening we're going to be hearing from quite a number of people about some examples of work that the members of our group and their allies have been doing across Bristol and the Southwest, and the benefits also of engaging with a pro bono programme. So we're going to start with Trust Law, which is a pro bono clearinghouse who essentially matches those seeking legal advice with legal advisors. We'll then hear from some local firms and universities, specifically UWE, BPP and the University of Law, about their projects. And then we'll also hear from the Bristol Law Centre. So without further delay, I'm going to introduce you to Sarah Farrelly from Trust Law. Sarah.
Hi, I'm seeing your beautiful animation again. Thanks, Victoria. Hi, everyone, and lovely to join. My name, as Victoria introduced me, is Sarah Farley, and I'm a Senior Legal Manager with Trust Law at the THOMSON REUTERS Foundation. I'm just going to take you through a couple of introductory slides, because I'm conscious that some of you on the line may not know Trust Law or the THOMSON REUTERS Foundation, so I'll just briefly introduce you to our organisation. So the THOMSON REUTERS Foundation is the charitable arm of Thomson Reuters. So hopefully, I'm guessing lots of you will have heard of Reuters, the news and information service, which has been around for a couple of hundred years. But the foundation itself is the charitable arm of Reuters, and we're registered as an independent charity both here in the UK and in the US, but we also do operate globally. And essentially, we leverage the expertise and reputation of Reuters to run free programs that inform, connect, and empower to drive socioeconomic progress around the world. So essentially our focus areas, in a very brief summary, are focused on three core themes. So the first is media freedom, looking at all things freedom of expression and protection of journalists. The second is around inclusive economies, so building kind of fair and sustainable economies, which also looks at forced labour and human trafficking. And then the last area is human rights, which encompasses all things from human rights to LGBT rights to climate change. So they're the kind of 3 core focus areas for the foundation. And how we deliver our service, one of which is the legal program I work for, which is Trust Law, so I'll move on to that in a moment. But just to touch on briefly the other core services of the foundation, they include a news coverage desk, which is our team of journalists that report on underreported stories globally, and including those kind of thematic human rights issues I mentioned. Our media development team, which trains journalists all over the world on unconscious bias and on independent reporting. And finally, our convening authority, which brings together working groups, conferences throughout the year, with our biggest one actually taking place online next week. And if people want to join that, it's Trust Conference, and it's completely free this year to join, which is brilliant. Just to move on to Trust Law then, which is the core legal service. We are the global pro bono network of the foundation, and we've now grown to be the largest pro bono connector in the world. So what we do on a day-to-day basis is connect charities, nonprofits, and social enterprises with legal teams. So that includes law firms and in-house legal teams from corporates all over the world. And what we do is the nonprofits and charities come to us with their legal questions, their legal needs, and we help them really identify exactly what their needs are. So what we do, the lawyers on our team, including myself, summarize those legal needs into a short, distinct project, which then gets sent out to our legal members, which includes some of the law firms on the line today. And they receive a weekly list of all of the currently available legal projects. These could be in any region around the world. So depending if you're based locally here in Bristol, or if you're based in the wider part of the UK, or if your firm happens to have offices outside of the UK, you can search through that weekly email and see what projects are available, what interesting charities in your community are seeking legal advice. And then you can get in touch with us to say that your team would like to work on it. And what we do then is connect you with that nonprofit. We're there to help ensure if anything goes wrong, if there's any extra issues that come up when you're working on the project, we're here to help. And yeah, we love to hear how the projects go. Lots of the projects we've worked on with our teams have had really great impact in local communities, and I think later today you'll be hearing more about one of the Trust Law projects that has happened through our service. So just to briefly then show you our breakdown of the types of projects you can work on. So they largely divide into 2 subject matters. On the left there you can see the kind of core of our legal advice subjects. So this is helping nonprofits and charities with their day-to-day legal needs. So really strengthening their corporate governance. It might be helping them register a trademark. It might be drafting them a template employment contract. Lots of charities might work with volunteers and they don't know their legal obligations in relation to that. So a lot of the projects you see come through our system are that bread and butter legal issues. And then on the other side, you've got these bigger cross-border legal research projects, which provide opportunities for lawyers to take part in kind of the bigger picture, maybe human rights type research, where you can do that as like a desk-based project, and you could also work in partnership with other legal teams around the world. So you might just cover, for example, the UK, but you could work with a large number of legal teams to contribute to a big legal research project. So then just to briefly show you on the map here, this just gives a snapshot of our team. So I'm one of 20 Trust Law team members. I oversee the UK Europe region, but I have colleagues dotted in our different regional hubs. And just to pull out some of the numbers, we assist now actually over 5,000 nonprofits and social enterprises. So we've been around for over a decade, and we've really grown to now be the largest network around the world doing pro bono. We've got over 1,000 legal members. And just to emphasize, we are completely free. So if anyone on the line is interested in taking part, both on the charitable side, it's free to join, and on the legal team side, it's free to become a member as well and get access to our pro bono projects. So just on the last slide here, I've set out just a bit more information to give you a bit more context as how it works here in the UK. As I said, we are completely free, and unlike some of the pro bono providers, there is no charge. And once you do sign up, there's no immediate obligation. If you'd like to just keep your eye on our weekly email, and as and when your team has capacity, you can get in touch and let us know if you're interested to take a project on. An important point to mention is our organizations, our members that we work with are vetted. So the other half of my team, I sit on the legal side, but the other half are the nonprofit side, who really thoroughly onboard our charitable members. They onboard with their governance documents, they check out their mission and their aim. We really want to make sure that we're working with really great organizations. And Therefore, the lawyers that work with us can rest assured that they're working with kind of very legitimate, hardworking and organisations that are achieving a lot of impact. We have over 6,000 non-profit members, and in the UK at the moment, I think this was numbers were run last week, so we've over 1,200 members here in the UK, and actually 26 specifically based in Bristol, so we've had lots of local projects happening here in Bristol as well. As I mentioned, we do this weekly email of pro bono opportunities. And these projects that you see in that weekly email are pre-scoped by one of the lawyers on our team, as I said, and they're very distinct, discrete legal issues. So if your team and your employment team happens to have capacity, you'll see from our weekly summaries exactly what organisation needs assistance, what they need assistance on. And as I said, there's a range of corporate issues included in that weekly email. So from real estate to governance, to data protection, to finance related projects. So hopefully there'll be something for everyone on your team if you are working with a law firm or an in-house team. And you can submit an offer to work on the projects through our secure platform, and we connect you with that organisation. And just to mention briefly, there is opportunities for law firms and in-house teams to partner together to work on those big research projects. So whoever's on the line, if you're a charity and you want to get in touch to access pro bono support, please do. And likewise, if you're a law student or a lawyer that's interested to help out, likewise, feel free to get in touch. So that wraps up Bristol, but thanks so much for the chance to be here today.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that. And I have to say, as pro bono manager at Simmons, we use trust law on a weekly basis. And I know Sarah and her team very, very well, and their service is exceptional. And what we'll do is we're going to be hearing from my colleague Kim in a minute on one of the trust law projects that Simmons took on. But before we move to Kim, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we at Simmons do on the pro bono front. So we are based in Bristol, although we do also have an office in London. And we engage in pro bono across our network, so that's in 20 offices globally. But really my focus, being the Bristol resident, is to really boost pro bono in Bristol, in my home city. And so half of our pro bono team actually are physically located in Bristol, and we have a team of 6, and 3 of whom are full-time pro bono lawyers. And we also have welcomed a new responsible business partner for Bristol, Caroline Turner-Inskip, whose mandate, as well as her day job, is to push forward pro bono and other responsible business strands in the city. So we've recently relaunched our pro bono strategy. We have 4 new focus groups. You can see there on the slide there: animal welfare and environment, LGBT+, race and ethnicity, and women and families. So that means that although we do a lot of other pro bono work, that is very much what we're looking to build our practice in at the moment, specifically in Bristol. And on the side of that, we also have some healthy work streams in business and human rights, which is my particular interest area, and also social impact investing. So again, if there's anyone on the line who is working in any of those areas and would like to speak to us more, then please do get in contact. Our projects come from all over the place, really. So local entities such as the Bristol Law Centre, we advise at local advice clinics, as in advising individuals on a one-off basis, but we also do end-to-end casework on benefit appeal cases. We work for local not-for-profits, and you can see some of our examples on the slide there. So such as the SOFA project, the Bristol Bike project, and these are very much entities that our fee earners, our lawyers, already have links with, are really passionate about, but that's not to say that we won't consider requests for pro bono assistance from other local organisations should they need a bit of a steer in the right direction from a legal perspective. And our Bristol lawyers also work for international NGOs as well. So one of my colleagues has recently advised Christian Aid on the drafting of the new global business and human rights treaty, which is very exciting. And you can find other details and examples on our website if you look at Simmons & Simmons Pro Bono. And lastly, as we've already mentioned, we have a healthy stream of trust law cases coming through, so we bid on those on a weekly basis. And Kim, my colleague, is just going to give you a bit of an overview of something that we've done recently. Kim, are you on the line?
Yes, I am just working out how to
Excellent.
take myself off mute. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. So I will talk briefly about a pro bono matter that I worked on earlier this year, which involved a three-way merger between Easton Community Centre, Felix Road Adventure Playground and Up Our Street, all of which are charitable organisations based in the same area of Bristol. So it was really good to be able to get involved, doing something for the good of the community, but also kind of using the legal skills that I've acquired over the last few years. So just to kind of outline the project, there were three firms involved: Simmons acting for Easton Community Centre, Latham and Watkins out of their Singapore office were acting for Up Our Street, and Arnold and Porter from London acting for Felix Road Adventure Playground. So it really was a great lineup of firms doing something for the good of the community. On the Simmons level, I'd say it was a real cross-practice effort. So we had 10 lawyers and support staff advising on this transaction across corporate, real estate, employment and tax. So on the corporate side, we obviously led the transfer agreement and advised on how to transfer the assets from our respective clients into Up Our Street. We also had real estate input because Felix Road and Easton Community Centre both had long leases with Bristol City Council, so we needed our property lawyers to advise on the transfer process and also complete the formalities for those transfers. There were also some colleagues in employment advising because there were employees at both Easton Community Centre and Felix Road who were potentially transferring to Up Our Street, and so we needed to make sure that the various organisations complied with their employment obligations. There was also advice provided by tax colleagues because whilst the organisations were registered under the Charities Act, they were also companies incorporated under the Companies Act. So we needed to be very careful about how the assets were transferred so that they didn't attract any taxes. So kind of on a global view, it was all very much a all firms on deck approach. And because we were all working towards the same goal, everyone adopted a very collaborative approach. So to give you an example, Arnold and Porter more or less led on the charities law aspect of this. Simmons didn't have any charities law expertise, so we very much looked to the partner at Arnold and Porter who had previously done a similar pro bono matter to lead on that. On the real estate side, Simmons also ended up advising Felix Road Adventure Playground because they didn't have any property law expertise. So it really was very much kind of all firms on deck. Where there were gaps in expertise at a particular firm, if the other firms could, they would step in to help. So that made the deal, whilst it was run for all intents and purposes as a corporate merger, it was great because everyone worked together more so than you'd expect in a corporate setting. And just to touch on the transfer agreement, as I previously mentioned, they were all charities but were also companies. So we had what you'd call a deed of donation, whereby Felix Road Adventure Playground and ECC essentially donated their assets to Up Our Street to avoid any tax implications. And I suppose to put everything I've said and our work into context, we've got a short video which has been prepared by a local philanthropist on the merger itself. So I'm going to click on this link. Oh, Victoria's going to click on the link and hopefully this will work.
I don't think you can see my screen actually, my other screen. I think what we'll do, Kim, is I'll just have a think about how we share that, and we might move on. And if we can't share that with the audience, what I'll do is I'll just send you all a link, and you can have a look at it afterwards. You can see it? Excellent. Okay.
And you should be able to maximize the screen as well, whether they can hear anything.
I've just noted that we don't have any sound on that. So what I'll do is I'll just circulate the link afterwards. But you can see from that freeze frame that it's very, very well attended. And in fact, I've already had a message from somebody listening to say that their toddler actually attends Easton Community Centre, and they had no idea that we were involved in that merger. So well done, Kim, and your team for all your work on that. What we'll do is we will go back to our slides, and we will now hear from Osborne Clarke.
Hi, it's Julian Hemming here. Can you hear me?
We can.
You might even be able to see me. I'm not sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending today. Osborne Clarke has been in Bristol for over 250 years, and like most of the Bristol law firms, we are very committed to pro bono work in the city. And I just want to say that I really welcome the creation of the Bristol Pro Bono group, because it gives us a great opportunity to work together and collaborate in providing much needed services to the city. So I want to congratulate everyone involved in establishing this group. And I also wanted to say to those of you who are new to this, new to pro bono, or perhaps new to the law and think, is this something really for me? I was encouraged to get involved in pro bono at the very start of my career, and it's always been something I've really valued, because as a junior lawyer, it gives you the opportunity to meet clients and to give them advice that's really important to them, and teaches you how important legal services can be, and also how to communicate clearly to clients, for many of whom English will not be their first language, and certainly dealing with lawyers is not something that they feel at all comfortable with necessarily, or is something they expect to do. So it's a really great way of honing your skills, and you'll gain a huge amount from it. So if you've joined today to learn about pro bono, please do ask in your firm, or look at the Bristol Pro Bono group and ask how you can get involved, because there really is something for everyone. It's not for senior lawyers, it's for everybody who wants to get involved. But I'm going to hand over to my colleague now, Leanne, just to give an example of one of the pro bono projects that Osborne Clarke has been involved in, and which is very important to the life of Bristol, particularly at the moment. So can I hand over to you, Leanne?
Thanks, Julian, and thanks to the Bristol Pro Bono group for inviting me, and it's great to see such a fantastic turnout. So I am a commercial property lawyer at Osborne Clarke and have been involved with Fair Share Southwest. So Osborne Clarke's provided pro bono legal support to Fair Share Southwest since it was set up in Bristol in 2007. So I don't know how much anybody knows about Fair Share Southwest, but it's an organisation that receives surplus in-date food from the food industry and then distributes that to local organisations which serve the most vulnerable and disadvantaged members of our community. Personally, I became involved with them during 2018 and 2019 when they were nominated as our Bristol office charity. And I was introduced by Alan John, who's a partner at OC, who's been their company secretary since it was established. And I had been looking for ways that I could use my skills as a commercial property lawyer to do something positive for the community, because traditionally a lot of pro bono legal advice doesn't really need commercial property input. So when this opportunity came up, I really jumped at it, and it's actually led me to take on a more regular role in delivering pro bono legal advice to Fair Share Southwest, but also to other pro bono clients. And it's also led me to become involved in Land Aid as an ambassador. So it definitely has sort of reach. But as I mentioned, as a commercial property lawyer, my involvement with Fair Share South West has been related to their property interests, particularly securing warehousing space from which they can operate their distribution functions. And as you can appreciate, food poverty and the need for the charity services has substantially increased during this pandemic. And in April alone, by way of example, Fair Share South West distributed 85 tonnes of food to 215 local organisations. So the effective use of warehouse space has become even more vital to their efforts. And so as the scale and reach of their operations have increased, for example, they're extending their operations into Devon and Cornwall, so has their need for legal advice on property matters. And so I've been advising on a lot of aspects of their warehouse premises, both those that they've occupied on a long-term basis and also additional temporary premises that they can take on a shorter-term basis, which helps them to assist with the substantial additional volumes of food that they're trying to distribute during the pandemic. But in terms of what I've got from it, what I've learned from it, for me personally, it's been an opportunity to put my skills to use in a way that directly helps the staff at Fair Share South West carry out their work. It benefits the community that I live in, and it improves the lives in a very meaningful way for those people too. And obviously, I think it goes without saying, I'd prefer not to need to have to help them. I'd prefer for their services not to be needed at all. But it definitely gives me a feeling of engagement. It's something that I think is worthwhile, and it still gives me that warm and fuzzy sense of knowing that I've been able to help in a small way. I've also found that it's exposed me to a different type of client, and it's helped me to develop my presentation and communication skills, because my practice is generally focused on clients who are involved in the property industry on a day-to-day basis, and so they're familiar with the concepts and the issues that arise. Whereas the team at Fair Share South West, this is not their day-to-day, and dealing effectively with property is a necessity to them to be able to do their work. So it's helped me to develop sort of different communication skills. And I think what I found is the approach to pro bono, there's often a hesitancy associated with pro bono in terms of how to balance that with your sort of normal day-to-day work. But I don't really think that's a feature. I think it's a misconception. So, I mean, I'm lucky at OC that pro bono is encouraged and that there is a time allowance for pro bono work. But in reality, that time allowance is for activities that need to be done outside the office, so volunteering. But when it comes to giving pro bono legal advice, we treat it in exactly the same way we would treat any fee earning matter. So I'll open a matter, run conflicts and record time. So I consequently factor it into my working day, and so capacity considerations are taken into account as they would be for any other matter. And I definitely found that approaching it that way means that I don't treat it differently, and therefore I don't consciously view it as pro bono work. It just becomes part of my day to day. So I think, as a summary, for me, taking on pro bono legal advice work is a massive positive, because it's enabled me to use my skills to the benefit of my local community, improve my skills as a lawyer, and also gain a better awareness of the way that my legal skills can be applied to benefit others. So I would really encourage people to consider getting involved with pro bono, because I just think it is rewarding on a number of different levels, and it's not something I've ever regretted being involved with.
Thank you, Leanne. I mean, that certainly echoes my experience of pro bono. I think once you have a taste for it, you tend to come back for more, especially when you see the excellent work that and the impact of the work that you and your team can achieve. So, moving from law firm participation in pro bono in Bristol, we're now going to hear from Evie Economou, who works for the Bristol Law Centre, and who I actually have quite a lot of dealings with in respect of the legal clinics that we at Simmons advise at. Evie, do you want to take the floor, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Victoria. So I'll talk very briefly about the Bristol Law Centre's involvement in pro bono. We have been running free legal advice clinics, I guess, probably since the Law Centre began, and I've been directly involved in the delivery of those projects over the last few years. And in that time, we've made a real effort to try and increase our capacity and help as many people as possible. And that's been really true of the last 6 months, specifically with COVID and going into lockdown. We've really wanted to maintain that presence for clients and to make sure that we are still able to offer advice in this way. So currently we're offering free legal advice clinics on a weekly basis for civil dispute issues, employment and family law issues as well. And all of this is an outcome really of a collective effort. We have an incredible cohort of volunteers on board. It's a mixture of big firms who are quite good at mobilizing their staff team and getting volunteers engaged with our project. But we've also got smaller firms and individual lawyers who have reached out in this time and have offered their time and wanted to become involved. And essentially the clinics operate on the premise that they are an initial advice service offering one-off advice appointment to people who might otherwise not be able to access advice elsewhere. And I would say this project is quite a key way for us in contributing to meeting the needs of members of our community, especially those who are quite vulnerable and, like I said, are often excluded from the process of being able to get free legal advice elsewhere. So I thought I would share with you some of the thoughts of our volunteers. They've sent this through and have discussed the motivations that inspire them to offer their time and expertise as part of this project. I'll let you have a read of that, and I think that some of the points they touch on really echoes the need for pro bono advice in the city, especially for those people who are disadvantaged as part of wider systemic issues in our legal system. And I'll just finish off with a final slide. Ultimately, all of this is done for the purpose of benefiting our clients, and you'll see from some of the responses they've sent in that a project like this really does work. Even if clients are speaking to a legal professional for a short amount of time, it really allows for them to have a meaningful outcome and be able to progress with their situation. You know, we've got clients who are in the midst of, you know, potentially life-changing circumstances. There's a bit of a chaotic struggle, so it's invaluable for them to speak with a lawyer and get some clarity on that issue and be given guidance on how to move forward with that. Just to finish up the clinics this year, we've managed to help over 300 people, which again is a reflection of the commitment of our volunteers and also the consistent demand for free legal advice in the city. And we'll continue to try to meet that need. So that's just one of the ways in which the Bristol Law Centre has been engaging with pro bono, and we've also been running a collaborative project with local universities, and I'll pass over to my colleague Sophia, who's going to introduce that for you.
Hi, I think we're going to come to the universities first of all, and just have a little word about what we each do. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me. My name's Rachel Wood, and I'm the Business and Law Clinic Director at the University of the West of England. We're going to talk about the LASP project in the moment, which is a project where we work with Bristol Law Centre alongside students who are volunteering from BPP and ULaw. But first of all, I think each of the universities is just going to have a couple of minutes just to tell you a bit more about our wider work. So at UWE, we've been running pro bono since 2008, and it gives our students a real opportunity to engage in a range of opportunities in relation to social justice issues and to support our local and wider communities. And in doing this, we collaborate with a whole range of organisations and also professional mentors, so lots of law firms in Bristol support our work and our students. And our students absolutely are very, very keen to get involved in this. Last year we had over 300 students who participated in one or more projects. So our slide just summarises some of the things that we're involved in at the moment. And we do clinic advice work in relation to family law, where we work with support through court, and also we work with a domestic abuse charity called Voices in Bath, and we've been doing that for a while, but we've added employment law advice to our clinic work this year. But we also have a business advice clinic, so we support fledgling businesses, startups, community groups with advice who can't afford legal advice in relation to structuring their business, intellectual property, contracts, that kind of thing. And in that, we slightly stray outside Victoria's strict definition of pro bono, because it's not just our law students who do that. We bring in students from our accounting and finance and also business and management departments to offer quite a holistic service to businesses who aren't able necessarily to afford legal advice at the very fledgling stages, and also community groups. So that's going on. But just to look at some of our key projects, which we do more widely. The litigant in-person service is, again, a collaborative project that we work on with ULaw and Bristol University, and I think Amanda from ULaw will speak a little bit about that in a moment. And I just want to focus in on two projects from that list. Educating for Justice enables our students to get involved in pro bono at an international level. We're involved, it was formerly called the African Prisons Project, and it's a project under which students produce educational materials and also get involved in teaching, working with prisoners in Uganda and Kenyan prisons who are studying for law degrees with London University, and are also training to be paralegals so that they can conduct advocacy and prepare their own appeals. And it's a really, really powerful project. Each year, well, not this year obviously, but each year some of our students, a small group of students, will go out and actually spend their summer going into the prisons and teaching. But even working back in the UK in groups, producing materials and doing online things, which is what's been happening in COVID, it's incredibly powerful for the students involved. And a number of the prisoners have actually been able to mount successful appeals in relation to very long prison sentences, and so it's had incredible impact. Just the final one perhaps I want to pick up here, because we're going to come back to the last project in a moment as a shared project between the universities and Bristol Law Centre, is the Bristol Music Advice Centre. And again, this is where our students are offering advice in relation to, to fledgling musicians and artists in Bristol in relation to commercial issues, contracts as they enter into copyright issues around their work at a stage in their careers where they can't afford to necessarily take legal advice. I think I'm allowed to say that one of our very early clients in this project, I don't think I'm breaching too much client confidentiality, was George Ezra, so that's our kind of claim to fame. But they've worked with all sorts of people over the years. And just to finish off from us, so we're going to talk about LASP in a moment and hear from one of our students who's been involved in that project. But we do a similar project where our students go out and volunteer at North Bristol Advice Centre, where they're working on conducting cases, doing advocacy for benefits appeals. Really, really important work, really impactful in terms of the student experience, but also Amanda's going to talk about this, I think, in relation to the reach of the LASP project and the way it's really helpful to the community in Bristol. So I'm going to hand on, and I think I'm handing on now to Lucy.
Lucy, are you there? Have we lost you? I can't find Lucy. She was with us a moment ago. Well, we might just skip on, see whether we can find her, and hear from the University of Law in the interim. Amanda, do we have you?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay, Victoria?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Crutchley. I'm the supervising solicitor and pro bono coordinator at the University of Law in Bristol. And very similar to how Rachel has outlined the schemes at UWE, the University of Law also offers a wide range of pro bono opportunities for students to engage with, that's looking really at supporting access to justice in the city. You'll see the variety I've put up of schemes on that slide. What we try and do is have a look and identify legal advice needs within the city and respond to that where possible. The schemes run from a family law email advice service that is operated in collaboration with Bristol Citizens Advice, but also, Rachel mentioned, there's one called Lip Service as well. And I think Lip Service is a great scheme because it just really highlights how wonderful collaboration can be with different partners. It supports litigants in person in the family and civil court, litigants in person that are embarking on their journey through the court, and students attend court hearings, they meet the client before they go to court and outline to them what to expect from their court experience, how to prepare effectively for court, understand the language of the court, the terminology of the court, and that just really empowers that litigant in person and makes them feel comfortable and makes them feel that they'll be able to participate with that court experience. And this scheme is run in collaboration with TLT, the courts, the judiciary, and Bristol City Council, and all the universities in the city as well. And I think it's the first collaboration of its kind nationwide, and I think it's a credit to Bristol that that's occurred. It won the Bristol Law Society's Team of the Year, was shortlisted for the Attorney General's Pro Bono Award, and those awards highlighted its effectiveness nationwide, and because of that it has been rolled out in Exeter as well, and hopefully elsewhere around the country. And it just highlights how effective pro bono isn't really limited to geographical boundaries. Victoria, if you can just go on to the next slide. I think before we go on to move back to Lucy, I know who's joined us again. Students can gain so much for engagement in pro bono. I know many of them are here tonight. I've just put on the slide a few of the areas that students can gain from. You know, it's those development of those professional skills, it's networking, it's being part of the Bristol legal community, which I think is really important early on. But I think my kind of parting comment would be, echoing what Julian said earlier really, I think the most important thing is students understand from engaging in pro bono how vital access to justice is, and that is just such a fantastic ethos for them to take with them into practice, and I think it's a memory that will never leave them. We've got, you've just flagged up the Victoria's slide of students, you know, winning the awards, but it's not about the success, it's about the learning. I think you mentioned, Victoria, how actually addictive and how wonderful it is to make a difference to these people, helping them access justice. I don't know, is Lucy back and joined us?
I can see her. Lucy, shall we come back to you? Let me just flick back to your slide.
I'm so sorry. It wouldn't be a Zoom. It wouldn't be a Zoom event, would it, without a speaker's Wi-Fi failing at the critical moment. So, hi everyone. I'm so sorry about that. You probably tried to come to me just as I was dropping off the Zoom call. My name is Lucy Burrows, and I'm one of the supervising solicitors and pro bono managers at BPP University. Quite a few of the attendees on the call might know BPP University as being a very large London centre, which we are, but we also have regional centres, regional law schools around the country. And importantly, one of those regional law schools is in Bristol. I joined BPP going on for 5 years ago now, and one of the responsibilities I was tasked with as a pro bono manager was to take charge of the pro bono centre provision in Bristol, Bristol itself, and I'm partly based usually in that centre. As a BPP Pro Bono Centre, we run a huge amount of national projects, which are both in London and our regional centres and beyond. And a few of those are there on the slide. Some of our big flagship projects are our legal advice clinics, and we offer legal advice clinics in several different areas, but we do offer very targeted clinics in housing law, in family law, and in enterprise. We also provide an employment law telephone advice line, which is essentially a telephone advice clinic where people can seek one-off and in some instances continued advice on employment law matters. And we run a large project called Street Law. I know that Rachel from UWE mentioned that as well. That's something that a lot of universities do participate in, which is our students educating people through public legal education on their rights, their responsibilities, their legal protections, and different areas of law that are interesting and relevant to them. But one of the things that I really wanted to focus on today is branching into the Bristol city area and pro bono specifically in that city. And and we really have been doing that in collaboration with a lot of the organisations that have been talking today. So as the other universities have mentioned, we're going to be speaking about the LASP project with Bristol Law Centre in a minute. That's something that we've been involved in, and that's been an absolutely fantastic project, and something that has actually been replicated by some of the London law centres that we work with as well. ELIPS, the Employment Litigant In-Person Support Scheme, that's something that we were already involved in Birmingham, and it's been so great to help and be part of that launch here in Bristol during 2019. Our student volunteers support the employment lawyers who are advising in the Employment Tribunal, and we're continuing to do so with their online service that's running during the continued lockdown period. So it's been, collaboration has been so fantastic for us in really embedding ourselves in the pro bono service in the city. It's been great to work with the other universities there, and I can only really echo what they have said about the real importance, and I think Julian said it as well, about the real importance of students, young lawyers getting involved in pro bono early and having that opportunity to provide that pro bono legal service in the communities that they are working and living within. And that's something that we find our students gain such valuable skills and experience from, but also we do find that they take that forward into their legal careers, and it's something that we're really actively always trying to encourage the participation of pro bono in our students at BPP University. I'll hand over now. I know we've got a bit out of order due to me dropping off, but I think, am I handing over to Sophia now to talk about the LASP project in a bit more detail?
Thank you very much for the introduction, Lucy. I just wanted to say firstly how brilliant all of the universities have been to work with, and I think we owe the success for the LASP project primarily to the successful collaboration we've had, getting the best students to volunteering as with the Law Centre. It's been a real asset to our team. So I just wanted to, I work at Bristol Law Centre, which many of you know is part of a network of independent and not-for-profit law centres across England, Northern Ireland and Wales. At Bristol Law Centre, we have teams which specialise in discrimination, mental health, housing, immigration, employment law, public law, and welfare benefits law. The main principle driving Bristol Law Centre, as well as law centres more generally, is having access to justice, and that financial means should not be a barrier to that. So, we do not charge for any of our legal services, and this is part of our ethos. I personally help to coordinate the Legal Advocacy Support Project at Bristol Law Centre, where volunteer law students run benefit appeals to the first tier tribunal, primarily challenging work capability assessments for universal credit and employment support allowance, and also for personal independence payments, which provide extra financial support to meet the costs of living with a disability or long-term health condition. It should be noted, we have an upper tribunal project as well, which challenges negative decisions made on welfare benefits at the first tier tribunal. The Legal Advocacy Support Project was started in 2012 due to cuts to legal aid in welfare benefits cases as a consequence of the Legal Aid Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act. This meant that there was a staggering 98% cut to welfare benefit cases, which could no longer receive legal aid funding. So the Legal Advocacy Project was really a response to this and provided a model where we could maximize our reach to the community by having caseworkers supervising the work of law students. As you can see, the project's been really successful. We've won awards and we've continued to get brilliant outcomes for claimants. In the last reporting year, that's 2019 to 2020, we had 38 volunteers working on our team, we were able to represent, and that's preparing the legal submission and the doing pre-hearing interviews and interviews with clients to prepare their case, as well as representing them at the hearing. We represented 265 appellants. Within that, we won 98% of our work capability assessment appeals and 95% of our personal independence payments appeals, which on average has brought the outcomes in Bristol 15% higher than the national rate of appeal success around the country. So for each client, this extra financial support makes a huge difference to their quality of life. And collectively, we've generated £3 million in financial gains for clients over the last reporting period. So this in turn brings back money into our local communities, as well as having a dramatic impact on the lives of individuals. By working on this scale, we're also able to see a much larger portion of cases and notice trends within decision-making processes. For instance, the next slide, I think, the next slide demonstrates the work we have done to change DWP policy guidance on the PIP assessment and the work capability assessment. We were able to notice a trend that claimants were being judged to be in less pain because they were on fewer, weaker dosages of painkillers. Our campaign worked with GPs, disability groups, and appellants to change the DWP guidance and prevent the incentive for claimants to take addictive and potentially dangerous opioid painkillers because of their worries about the ramifications that this could have on their claims. This is just one example of how individual cases may be extrapolated to change national policy. So the project is well placed to be a pivotal part of change for vulnerable members of our community, but in turn can be wielded as a collective voice of the community. We also have a National Development Officer, Misha Rigby, who's working hard to expand the scope of the project by setting up similar projects in other areas of the UK. Since the COVID pandemic, life has become much harder for our clients who already face significant disadvantage as being disabled or suffering from long-term health conditions. And often this is being in poor housing conditions and made more vulnerable to contracting coronavirus. We initially saw a decline in referrals, and there were serious concerns about whether the most vulnerable members of our community are actually able to access advice services. At the same time, our team had to rapidly modify our processes so we could deliver the legal advocacy support project remotely. So in the last months, we've witnessed appeal numbers rising again. We've been focusing our efforts on developing a pilot project to make our remote working practices more robust and expand the number of claimants we're able to assist. Hopefully this will in future allow us to access the sort of advice desert areas and expand the reach of the project. There are still thousands of claimants challenging their benefits decisions that will go unrepresented. So a key focus is constantly evaluating our casework systems to ensure we can maximize our impact. And hopefully the pilot project will be a further step towards this goal. I'm delighted to present Chloe Wall, who's here today. She's volunteered with the Legal Advocacy Support Project, initially through the Law and Action module with her university, and then chose to keep volunteering with us. She's given a huge amount of her time to the Legal Advocacy Support Project, represented numerous claimants in their first-tier tribunal appeal, and we're so grateful for her contributions to the team. She's currently studying her legal practice course, and I have no doubt she will go on to do brilliant work in her career. And Rachel Wood is going to be leading the Q&A with Chloe.
Hi.
Hiya, thank you.
Hi, Chloe, are you there?
Yeah.
So,
Just before you start, Rach, just quickly to our audience, we will be going over by probably about 5 or so minutes. So I do plead with you to stick with us, because Chloe has been doing some fantastic work, and I really want you to all hear what she has to say on that. She is our last speaker, and we'll probably be finishing about 6:05.
thank you, Victoria. So I was just going to start by asking Chloe a little bit about how she got involved with the last project in the first place. What drew you into the project, Chloe?
So I originally got involved with the projects. I was doing my undergraduate law degree at UWE, and I did the Law and Action module. So as part of that, you do a placement, which is allocated by the uni. But I actually chose this specific placement because it was offered before the start of uni, to start in the summer, and I was just sort of emailed the specification for it and offered it, and I was reading it and reading what LASP was about and how it sort of was a crucial service to clients that really needed help with their welfare benefits, and sort of the ramifications if they didn't get help and what that could look like. So just upon reading like the description for the project, I thought it was really interesting, could be some really rewarding work. So that's initially what drew me in.
Yeah, and I can confirm what Chloe said, because she was very quick off the mark to respond when we put out the call that there was an opportunity which started early. So you started, didn't you, before the university term? You got in there and got the training under your belt and got going with it.
Perhaps July last year, so that seems mad now. It's a very long time ago.
So I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about the experience that being part of the project has given you.
So much, honestly. It's just even more experience than you could imagine as well. So just sort of going into it, I was just hoping of gaining experience of what it was just like to even be present in a law firm, and to just get insights of how like lawyers work. Because as a law student, I always sort of distanced myself from it. I was like, oh, like real lawyers, that's so exciting, like see how they work. I didn't even expect to actually be trusted to go and represent clients as well. So you just learn so much, even through like emotional intelligence of how to deal with clients and sort of tricky situations where clients may be perhaps reluctant or embarrassed to talk to you. You learn interviewing skills on how to get sort of some more information out of them. Advocacy skills go into the tribunal, drafting legal documents, or all things that normally you wouldn't even have the option to experience until you get onto the LPC, which is obviously quite far along for some people. So if you can get involved with a project like this, you'll really get some enhanced skills very quickly.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask you, we were talking the other day, what it was like working with the LASP clients, because these are clients who are often in very difficult circumstances. They're quite challenging for you going in as a student.
Yeah, it can be very very like challenging, and also a bit daunting as well, because as you mentioned, you'll get clients that are in very vulnerable situations and they've got various disabilities which you've perhaps never encountered before. So it can be quite challenging in that respect. And as I mentioned, trying to get them to talk to you, and you know that you're there and you've got a job to do, but you want to spend all day talking to them, and you sort of really gain their trust, because where you only do so many hours a week, you'll find that you'll spend many, many weeks with these clients. And so you really do get to know them on sort of a personal level. I remember having one client who she struggled really quite severely with like anxiety and depression and things like that. And when I first met her, I remember she couldn't even make eye contact with me. And then coming out of her appeal hearing, which we won, and she got enhanced rate, which is the highest you can, and she hugged me, and I thought it was so surreal that we'd managed to build that sort of relationship where she at one point couldn't even look me in the eye, and then she was like so grateful for what we've done. So yeah, it's really rewarding, but can be very challenging.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And the thought of hugging clients at the moment is really moving.
Yeah,
hugging all sorts of people. And just to finish off then, Chloe, what would you say, you've talked about your experiences a little bit, what would you say are the benefits of participating in the LASP project if you were talking to other students about getting involved?
I'd say honestly the benefits are endless, because I've been able to apply it to so many situations and so many sort of even new experiences. So I'm now doing my LPC, and just even a couple of examples from that. So as part of that, you do advocacy assessments, which if you're already used to sort of standing up in front of a tribunal and arguing for a case, and you're already used to reading through casework and getting to grips with it, you can really apply that to not only future studies, but also obviously your future career if you're doing contentious seats in a training contract, or if you wanted to go into an area of law that does go to court a lot. You can just confidence as well. You learn a lot about yourself, seeing clients that you maybe perhaps you can relate to, or perhaps that you don't, but you develop those sort of skills to be able to interact with people from all different walks of life. There's just so many benefits, both professional, emotional and educational, really.
Thank you, Chloe. That's fantastic. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much, Chloe. And I would just say that those benefits are not solely for students who get involved in pro bono. I'm now coming up for a decade of being qualified as a lawyer, and I'm certainly still receiving those benefits, as are some of the partners who have just taken up pro bono cases for the first time, who are perhaps niche financial experts in, say, hedge funds, who haven't spoken to a normal person probably for many a year, and now they are running these benefit appeals, and they find it so rewarding and to be able to achieve a positive outcome for an individual who's really struggling. So I would encourage students, but also any lawyers on the line who are interested, to really consider getting involved with benefit appeals, but also pro bono in general. If individual clinic work is not your thing, and you prefer to advise not-for-profit entities on some commercial matters, then that's certainly something that you can do as part of your practice. So I just wanted to really wrap up today, and first of all thank all of our contributors today. This really has been a canter through some of the things that we are getting up to in the city as part of the Bristol Pro Bono group. And as you've heard, collaboration is really key, and that's what we are focused on. So we have law firms working with law centres and universities and students, and we also have barristers who get involved as well and do pro bono as part of their kind of free time in addition to their practice. As Sophia noted, pro bono support is more needed and more important than ever right now, especially due to the pandemic, which has really thrust some individuals and also not-for-profits into some very difficult circumstances. And we've all, as pro bono providers, had to react very, very quickly to enable advice to be given remotely during this period of lockdown, well, second period of lockdown, but also the first one, and those changes will be ongoing. But a successful pro bono practice, whether within a firm, within a university, requires communication, so that all those people and entities who need pro bono assistance know where to go. And again, that is part of our role as the Bristol Pro Bono group. So if you are a student, please contact your university coordinator for pro bono opportunities. If you are a lawyer working within a private law firm, please contact your pro bono coordinator, or failing that, if you don't have one, then contact the Bristol Pro Bono group and we can help you kickstart your practice. And if you're an in-house lawyer, we have very close links to the in-house pro bono group, which is centred in London but is looking to expand out west, and has been very active on the pro bono front during Pro Bono Week, and we can put you in contact with them. And conversely, if you're an individual looking for a bit of pro bono assistance, then please contact the law firm, so the law centres. And if you're a not-for-profit in a tricky spot, then we've heard from Sarah today how trust law might be your key to a bit of a free legal assistance. But if you need any signposting to other services, please look at our obtaining help section of our website, the Bristol Pro Bono Group website. and we can help point you in the right direction. So I just wanted to finally wrap up by saying that we have an additional session coming up. That's run by the Bristol Trustee Group, which is a subgroup of the Bristol Pro Bono Group and also the Community Engagement Group. And they are doing a range of seminars to assist charitable trustees in their roles. So if you are a charitable trustee on the line or know of any who might need a little bit of a refresher on employment law specifically, there is a session taking place next week on the 10th of November at lunchtime. And we can certainly circulate a link to that session after this event has wrapped up. So I would just like to re-emphasize how grateful I am to everybody today taking part and sharing with us some of their pro bono stories. And I'm especially grateful to everybody who's joined us on the line to learn a little bit more about what we are doing. As I said, this is our first event, hopefully one more to come. And if you do have any questions, then feel free to reach out to us either individually or via the Bristol Pro Bono website, and we will do our best to answer those questions. So thank you very much, and I wish you a very good evening.